What up, motherfuckers? It's your boy, the Hater, and I'm sorry to say, but Hater Mania is over, motherfucks. But don't worry, subscribe today for more great Hater content coming soon. And with that being said, let's talk about WrestleMania 37, Night 2, and let's review this some bitch real fast right now, okay? All right, what do we have to say? There's a lot to say here. All right. First up, the show starts with the worst match possibly in the history of WrestleMania, Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Now, give credit where credit's due. I expected The Fiend to win this. Randy Orton wins with an RKO. Right after, Alexa Bliss changes her costume, right? Appears on top of the Jack-in-the-Box thing, right? And then, like, blood is coming from the crown that she's wearing, and people are saying, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? This distracts The Fiend long enough to get put down by one RKO in like 6 minutes. All right. So this is the same guy that kicked out of like, multiple chair shots, like 15 curb stomps. He was like no selling spears and power slams, and one RKO puts him away. All right, fine. You know what I mean? The beginning of the match was really stupid. The entrance of The Fiend was really dumb. He literally came out of a Jack-in-the-Box to sell that whole Jack-in-the-Box thing, right? And he came out. He wasn't even wearing like the burned attire. He was just like wearing normal Fiend attire, so it's like the fire never happened, right? Randy Orton beat him. I have absolutely no interest, and neither should anyone, in what happens next to The Fiend, okay? There's no explanation as to what happened with Alexa Bliss. Oh, maybe she's sister. Like, who gives a fuck what's happening? Nobody should care about this. This was total garbage, okay? This was garbage. This should have been a Raw segment. Should have even been a match, This felt like a segment, The people come out, and then, like, The Fiend is distracted by Alexa Bliss and he just gets RKO'd. This shouldn't have been a match. And honestly, even if it was the most epic match ever, it still wouldn't be good because it came after an Inferno match. So once again, The Fiend fails at beating Randy Orton. Randy Orton has been beating the shit out of The Fiend for like 10 years now. And Bray Wyatt, It's time to retire this garbage character, okay? The Fiend is one of the worst ideas in the history of WWE. Right there with Katie Vick, motherfucks. Right there, And fucking, what's that guy? Sub-Zero Glacier from WCW. Right there. One of the worst ideas, and in my opinion, the worst gimmick ever, okay? This guy, since he became The Fiend, he has done absolutely nothing of note. I mean, he's won the title a few times, but that's not because he's The Fiend. That's just, you could have had Bray Wyatt win the title and the same shit would have happened, right? The Fiend, the change from Bray Wyatt to The Fiend has led to nothing, and certainly, because it's led to nothing, it sure as shit has led to nothing good, motherfuckers. Nothing good. And now for what appeared to me to be the longest match of the night, we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Natalya and Tamina for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Considering what this match was, it wasn't too bad. It felt like Tamina was going to have a WrestleMania moment. But at the end of the day, Baszler made Natty tap out. I believe it was Natty. She made her tap out with a Kiwi Fuda clutch, motherfucks. This means absolutely nothing. Shayna Baszler deserves better than to be in here in the ring with these three broads who don't know what the hell they're doing. Let's be real. Tamina, you see her like once a year at WrestleMania, usually in a battle royal, and then you don't see her for the rest of the year. I don't know what they do with her for the rest of the year. Maybe in the dark matches. I don't know. Then we had Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens with Logan Paul over there. This was as predictable as they come, right? I predicted that Logan Paul would help Kevin Owens win, but that's the only thing that I got wrong, right? Kevin Owens won, and I knew that in the end, Kevin Owens would hit Logan Paul with a stunner because Logan Paul is a very hateable guy, and Kevin Owens is like kind of like the antithesis of Logan Paul. He's not about the glitz and glamour. He's not about being like putting yourself over with bullshit. He's supposed to be this like tough guy character, right? So it makes perfect sense. Obviously, this screams of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and thus it wasn't that good as a result. It's just he wants to be Stone Cold so bad, but he's not. I think it would have been better, for example, if Sami Zayn were to win, right? If Sami Zayn were to win, or even if Sami Zayn were to lose, and it turns out somehow through a story that there actually was a conspiracy. Wouldn't that be a fresh and novel idea that Sami Zayn was right all along and there was some conspiracy? So let's say, for example, Sami Zayn hits the haluva kick and the lights go out, right? And then when the lights go out, I don't know, Logan Paul is attacking Sami Zayn Kevin Owens does the stunner. We do like a double turn. I don't like double turns, but it doesn't matter in this case because the greater story would be the conspiracy was right and Sami Zayn was not talking out of his ass. Now, the problem with this match, of course, is that nobody cares about either Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. But the match itself was decent. You know what I'm saying? They did a good job. They did a lot of moves. You know, it felt like a wrestling match. Like Sami Zayn did like a million suplexes. Kevin Owens did the pop-up powerbomb from the beginning. You know, nothing we haven't seen before. But it felt like a wrestling match, you know? Logan Paul's participation was completely unnecessary. It didn't really put Owens over anymore. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm not totally against it, but it didn't add anything, so who gives a rat's ass? You know what I'm saying? Next up, we had Riddle versus Sheamus in a match that we've seen several times on Raw. I don't care about this match at all. As a matter of fact, I fell asleep during this match 2 times, motherfucks. 2 times I fell asleep during this match. However, I did wake up in time to see the end, and the end was pretty cool, you know? Like, Sheamus did a bro kick while Matt Riddle was doing an Asahi moonsault. And afterwards, Matt Riddle had blood in his mouth, probably fake. But I thought that was a nice touch to really sell the kick because like the likelihood is that Sheamus would miss. You know, it's a very, like, hard thing to do. He kind of missed, but he kind of hit as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. Sheamus winning the the US title means fucking nothing. Like, nobody should care about this at all. Sheamus doesn't care about it. Matt Riddle doesn't care that he lost it. Nobody cares about the US title. So the fact that Sheamus became the US champion means absolutely nothing to anyone. This was just a throwaway match. You know, as a matter of fact, I know I keep hammering this point in, but I think it would have been better if you had taken out this match, or better yet, if yesterday's event, if they had taken out the women's gauntlet or whatever tag team turmoil match, if they had taken that away, you know, and just had that on Raw, because that would have been a nice fit for Raw. You have that on Raw, and then like there's implications, like for the winner, it's an important Raw match because the winner gets to go to WrestleMania. But in this case, the winner gets to go to the next night of WrestleMania. The winner's already been to WrestleMania, you know. So I think it would have been better the way that I would have done it, which would be put that match on either SmackDown or Raw. You should have put it on SmackDown since it was the SmackDown, like, you know, WrestleMania edition. It would have been a good fit for that, you know. And then instead of that match, which took, let me look at Wikipedia how long that took. That match took 14 minutes and 15 seconds, and the other one took 14 minutes and 20 seconds. So 2 of the longest matches of the night. And the problem with these matches was exactly that. They were too long, and therefore the time could have been used more intelligently. You know, I personally believe that WrestleMania needs to focus on WrestleMania moments. And that means memorable things. Nobody's going to remember Sheamus winning the United States title. Nobody cares that Sheamus won the United States title. You know, Sheamus has main evented WrestleMania, you know, or at least been in like the championship match, not in the closing match, but he's been in the championship match. So therefore, it would have made sense for that match to like be way shorter, or like I said, get rid of this women's tag team turmoil match, and you should have done Dolph Ziggler. WWE should have done Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode because the 2 of them deserve a spot on the card, right? Dolph Ziggler is someone that people like. He might sell 1 ticket, you know what I mean? Bobby Roode as well. And you should have put them against the team of Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio because Rey Mysterio will sell tickets. You know, if I lived in Florida, I would be persuaded more if Rey Mysterio was on the card than if he wasn't. You know, that might be the difference maker. Not in this card because this card was pretty shitty, but generally that Rey Mysterio is a draw. So Rey Mysterio plus Dominic Mysterio, and especially them winning the tag team titles at WrestleMania, would be a memorable moment. Now, you can do this next year, but what are they going to do for the rest of the year, right? You know, I believe that is a WrestleMania moment. That is a match that would go down in memory and in history, right? People would remember that. Nobody's going to remember Cesaro versus Rollins yesterday or Sheamus versus Riddle, you know? So I think that's a big mistake, and I think it's encapsulated very well in Sheamus versus Riddle, a match that no one cared about, that went about 10 minutes and 50 seconds, according to Wikipedia, motherfucks. Next up, we had Apollo Crews versus Big E in a Nigerian drum fight. Now, real quick about this. A lot of people have been saying, oh, this is racist. The Nigerian drum fight is racist. Okay, people need to use their bean a little bit. They need to use their 2 brain cells and really think about what racist means, right? This is no more racist than a Punjabi prison match or a Belfast brawl. Like if you had Finlay versus Sheamus or Finlay versus Ziggler, who cares, right? Or Sheamus versus Ziggler for that matter, in like a Belfast brawl, it would make no difference. Nobody would think it's racist, right? And there's nothing inherently racist about a Nigerian drum fight, right? The whole premise is that Apollo is, proud of his Nigerian heritage now. That's like his gimmick, right? He's like a Nigerian prince. You know what I mean? He's like Eddie Murphy from Coming to America. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, he wants to challenge Apollo in a match that's being presented as his specialty. You know, as like this is like how he came up or whatever the case may be. Like he's someone that knows the rules of this match or has experience in this kind of match, right? It's just a hardcore match. There's just drums around for some reason, right? It made no difference. It's just a gimmick match, but it's not racist. Is it stupid? Yeah, it's stupid because why would you have a hardcore match and you have drums and gongs, you know, in there? It's really silly, you know. But that happens all the time. It happens all the time. It's no more racist than like if I don't know, you know, like Eddie Guerrero and John Cena having a parking lot brawl because Eddie Guerrero's Latino and that's a bad stereotype. Like, get the fuck out of here, you know what I mean? It's not racist. Racist would be like this match is only for the Apollo Crews of the world and he cannot have a normal hardcore match. That would be racist. Simply having a match based on the character of one of the performers is not racist. It is the equivalent of like the New Day having like a unicorn pancake match, right? It's not anti-New Day, it's just what their character is. So anyone that says this is racist, you should ignore anything they say because these people are not intelligent. They do not have two brain cells to rub together. Speaking of alleged racism, motherfucks, we had Hulk Hogan on the show throughout the whole night. Now, aside from the fact that Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil literally added absolutely nothing to this event, and in my opinion, detracted severely from the event, especially when they came out dressed like pirates today, you know? Hulk Hogan got a lot of boos. Now, I don't particularly believe that we should hold things against people forever, you know? We should forgive people. As far as I know, he apologized. I could be wrong about that, right? But he said something in anger and in what he thought was the privacy of his own home. So for people to judge him for that, I think it's a little excessive. Now, that being said, if you do judge him for that, you certainly have the right to boo. So there's nothing wrong with people booing Hulk Hogan. I would be booing Hogan as well if I were there. Not necessarily for that. I'd be booing him more because it's time for him to go away. I recently watched WrestleMania 18, him versus The Rock, and he was awesome. And now he's just an old man. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being an old man, but there's something wrong with being an old man who comes out and says, you know something, dude? You know, that's not cool anymore, right? Let's move forward from that. I mean, it was cool at a certain point. Hulk Hogan will always be cool, it goes without saying, but it's like now, it's outdated. And the fact that he is also considered by many to be a racist, I think it was a bad move overall, and the booing is justified. Now, in Apollo Crews versus Big E, this match was pretty good for what it was, a short match. It was a short match, it was pretty good. Apollo Crews is awesome now, and Apollo Crews deserves a push. This is exactly what creating a character is all about. You become Apollo Crews, a jobber, for like fucking who knows how long, 5 years, 6 years, how long has it been? It's been a minute, you know? You become a jobber for a while, right? And your gimmick is like, I'm happy to be here, you know? And that's not a good gimmick. Eventually, you know, a lot of times the I'm happy to be here guy just becomes the I'm not happy to be here, the fans have betrayed me guy, right? And that's shit. Apollo Crews went a different direction. He took advantage of the fact that apparently he has a really good Nigerian accent and he branded himself as a Nigerian, right? And as Nigerian royalty. This can pay dividends in the future, right? That plus the fact that Apollo Crews is a complete wrestler, especially now that he's putting on a character and he's actually doing decent with it. He is extremely athletic. He's one of the only people who can do power moves and high flying moves with ease. You know, him lifting Big E felt effortless. I know he can do flips and shooting stars and all the other stuff. So that's pretty cool, right? The only thing that was missing was character and personality, and now he has it. Speaking of character and personality, as Big E was winning, nobody I think should ever want Big E to win this match. Apollo Crews clearly is the one that is the better wrestler and the better character right now. You know, Big E's about to win. Baba Tunde comes out, motherfuckers. Daba Kato, right? For those that don't know, Daba Kato, you may recognize him from Raw Underground. Daba Kato is half Nigerian and half Polish. And he came out looking like an African general. I mean, he's like half Polish, so he's a little, you know, light-skinned. He has a lot of like what, you know, like European-y like features, right? He's got like, I think he has the Polish eagle tattoo. I'm not sure though, right? He's very light-skinned. You know, like if you looked at him, you'd be like, oh, he's like a Samoan or something. You might not think he's like black at all, right? But nonetheless, he is Nigerian, and he came out dressed like a general. He came out dressed almost like Wesley Snipes in Coming to America too, you know? So he feels like the Semi, remember Semi from Coming to America? He feels like the Semi to Apollo Crews' Eddie Murphy character, you know? His right hand, his cohort, right? And he is a big guy. And Apollo Crews is a big guy too, so you need a really big guy to tower over Apollo Crews to be his Diesel, basically, right? This was effective. This was one of the best things on the card tonight because this made me want to watch SmackDown. I want to know now what's next for Apollo Crews and this guy, right? versus, for example, AJ Styles and Omos, which is a similar dynamic of smaller guy, bigger guy, doesn't make me want to watch Raw. Like, I don't care about AJ Styles and Omos. Omos wasn't presented as cool. Dabba-Kato came in, he did the, what's it called? The Samoan spike, basically, and it looked convincing. It looked like he actually hit him. Big E sold it phenomenally. Big E is also underrated. He fell to his knees, right? And the Dabba-Kato grabbed him and chokeslammed him, dragged the body of Apollo Crews over him, and that was the end of that. You know, I look forward to seeing where this goes. Hopefully it goes well. Apollo Crews should use this momentum, in my opinion, to move towards the main event, because the main event scene is very, very, very much in need of some good heels. A lot of faces, not that many heels, motherfuckers. The champions are heels, but you need some other heels in the main event to feud with other people. So let's say Apollo Crews moves to, I don't know, Raw, right? Like, Drew McIntyre might continue feuding with Bobby Lashley, right? And you might need another heel to build up the next face guy, right? So that's what needs to happen here. So I thought this match was very effective. It felt like a big deal for some reason, and I really enjoyed it. Primarily, I'd like to say this. Apollo Crews deserves a push, and this is the kind of positive character improvement that WWE needs to highlight. You know, this is one of the greatest character shifts in recent memory. So I can't say enough good things about Apollo Crews and Big E. Next up, we had the piss break match, Rhea Ripley versus Asuka, because no one could care about this. It was clear that Rhea Ripley was probably going to win, just because Asuka has been champion for a year. Asuka is in the same position as Io Shirai, right? Io Shirai is a Japanese wrestler who doesn't really provide much in terms of commentary or promo, but she's good, so she stays champion for nearly a year, and then she loses to someone from NXT, right? That's what happened here. Same thing with Sasha Banks in some ways, but Sasha Banks obviously can cut a promo to a degree, right? So obviously Rhea Ripley was going to win, and that's exactly what happened. Rhea Ripley won. The way that she won, I didn't like. The match was pretty decent. You know, it wasn't like a horrible match, but I mean, for what it was, like for like a relatively long women's match involving like Rhea Ripley. But the ending of the match I didn't like, because Asuka was kicking the shit out of Rhea Ripley, was begging for more, right? Asuka goes for one more kick. Rhea Ripley ducks, hits the riptide. It looked like shit. She hit the riptide, and I thought Asuka would kick out, and this would require one more riptide, right? But it didn't. That was the end of that. So I wasn't really impressed by this match, and quite honestly, I don't think this match should have been this high up on the card. But it is what it is. I ain't very mad at it. Now, we had, obviously, the match of the night and the match of both nights. Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan, and let's be real, versus Jey Uso, right? This match was fantastic. Everything happened. I predicted the concerto part, but I thought Edge was going to win, right? Everything in this match went well. There was only two gripes I had, two small gripes. Well, one small gripe and one big gripe. There was a point after Roman Reigns power bombs Daniel Bryan through the announce table. He's standing on the steel steps, and Edge runs up and spears him, right? And Roman Reigns sells it like he's hurt, but for some reason Edge is hurt too. Like during this part of the match, Edge hadn't really been damaged in quite a while, so why is he hurt from doing the spear? But that's fine. Let's say he's fatigued. You know, you can explain that one away. That one is not a deal breaker, right? What is a deal breaker, though, is the ending of this match, which was unjustifiable, right? Edge eventually spears Daniel Bryan, and does he spear Roman Reigns? I think he spears Roman Reigns too. And then he gets two chairs. There's already a chair in the ring. He gets two chairs. He puts one, or he beats both of them with a chair for like 30 seconds, right? He hits each of them, let's say like 5-6 times with a chair on their back. Then he puts a chair under Bryan's head and one under Roman Reigns' head. He then proceeds to concerto Daniel Bryan, right? I was afraid Daniel Bryan would move out of the way, and I was like, this would be ridiculous because he just took like 25 chair shots, right? He's taking all this abuse. He shouldn't be moving, and he did it, right? Daniel Bryan is selling it, like kind of shaking in the ring. So he goes to hit Roman Reigns with a concerto. And at this point, Jey Uso, who had been executioned on the steps earlier, came back, right? Interfered, got speared by Edge, which then allowed Roman Reigns to spear Edge himself, put the chair under Edge's head, hit the concerto on Edge, drag Edge over Daniel Bryan, and pin them both in what the announcers called a dominating fashion. The only problem is that once again, Jey Uso's interference has ruined a great match. Last time, it was Jey Uso and Edge that ruined a great match, and I thought that because this is WrestleMania, the payoff, at WrestleMania, motherfucks, the payoff should not involve, like, interference, right? The end of WrestleMania should not involve interference unless it is story-driven interference. So, for example, a good example would be Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania, right? That was story-driven interference, right? Seth Rollins went on to be champion for like 8 months. You know what I mean? The whole point was the Seth Rollins character benefits from this moment, and he interjects himself storyline-wise with the Money in the Bank, which is a prop that has been introduced years ago and we're familiar with, right? This was not that, right? Another great example might be Stone Cold versus The Rock at WrestleMania, and Vince McMahon turns. Well, not turns because he was always evil, but Stone Cold turns heel and beats The Rock up with a chair with help, essentially, from Vince McMahon. That's a storyline-driven interference, right? It's there for a specific purpose, you know? Even a storyline like Daniel Bryan, for example, being screwed with, like let's say like Triple H came out during his triple threat match with Orton and Batista, and Triple H attacked him, right? That would be storyline driven. Triple H has a vested interest in Daniel Bryan not being champion. Triple H feuded with Daniel Bryan during the time, wrestled him at that event. But Jey Uso is just another pawn. This would be like if in every match that the Hardy Boys had, Lita interfered, and that's how the Hardy Boys won, right? It didn't feel right, you know? And as a result of it not feeling right, I believe that the Raw main event, if you will, not the Bianca Belair, but the Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, could easily have been put on this spot. It would have fit a bit more. The idea is in both the heel won, so the fans did get to go home happy, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with Roman Reigns winning. I mean, I would have preferred Edge, but I'm fine with Reigns winning. I don't have anything against Roman Reigns winning the match. What I have something against is this idea that Jey Uso, who like a few months ago was losing to like Dax the Axe from AEW, you know what I mean? All of a sudden now he's like main event Jey Uso, and he is influencing directly the main event of WrestleMania. You know, if it weren't for Jey Uso, the main event would have gone differently according to the kayfabe, right? But because Jey Uso was there, it went the way it did. And that is not something that I think anybody enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody liked that. Even if you're a Roman Reigns fan, you probably don't like that, because then the question still remains, can Edge beat Roman Reigns? You know what I mean? And I will top this off by saying this. Aside from Jey Uso's bullshit, right? I think we can all agree that adding Daniel Bryan to this match made the match substantially better, both overall and in specific segments. So the segment where both Daniel Bryan and Edge have a crossface and a yes lock on Roman Reigns, that was a cool segment. When Daniel Bryan got powerbomb through the table by Roman Reigns, that was a cool moment, followed by Edge spearing Roman Reigns because he was gloating that he put Daniel Bryan through the table. And of course, at the end, the visual of Roman Reigns pinning both his challengers was pretty domineering, right? It was like, it showed that Roman Reigns means business. So at this point, Roman Reigns, in a few more pay-per-views, especially if he starts winning without Jey Uso, he will have started to establish himself as a guy, right, who can put someone over, right? When you're over, you can put other people over. I don't believe Roman Reigns is over yet, but with this win, right, and the way that this win went in terms of the visuals, Roman Reigns, like if for example, let's just hypothesize that Roman Reigns stays champion for a year, right, and Velveteen Dream wins the Royal Rumble, and then he beats Roman Reigns. Velveteen Dream is automatically a permanent main eventer. He becomes like a Cena. You know what I mean? Like JBL, one of the greatest accomplishments of JBL, they didn't talk about this in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he mentioned it. But one of the greatest contributions JBL has ever made was not the fact that he was champion for so long or even tribute to the troops. It's the fact that because he was champion for so long, he was able to put over Cena. You know, and Cena became what he is today partially because of JBL. You understand me? So same thing with Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, right? You know, Kurt Angle put over Brock Lesnar. It wasn't, I mean, Hulk Hogan did too. You know what I mean? I think it was Hulk Hogan that he beat first for the title, right? But like, that's how you put someone over. Roman Reigns is entering that level, but it would have been so much better if, let's say, Roman Reigns had beaten the shit out of both of them, right? You know, without Jey Uso, and had pinned them both. That would have been amazing, right? That would have been amazing. Now, I understand that would be like, people would say like, oh, Edge and Daniel Bryan have been buried. But that's fine, motherfucks. That's fine. Roman Reigns is the one you want to make a star, apparently, right? So if that's not how it's going to be, it would have been fine for Edge to win, have this moment at WrestleMania, and then he could drop it to Roman Reigns next month. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? But this was not a moment, right? Roman Reigns didn't have a WrestleMania moment with this win. This was an anti-moment. So based on all that, I have to say that night one was better. I think without a doubt, night one was better because the only things that were tolerable this night were the Nigerian drum circle match, and of course the main event was still great despite my gripes with it. But the first night, almost every match was at least decent. You know what I mean? And yeah, there was a way better matches, in my opinion, the first night. But overall, I'd say they're pretty comparable, right? They're pretty comparable because, like, while last night may have had 3 or 4 good matches and tonight only had 2, the 2 matches that were good tonight, I think, were more important. They told more of a story, right? Because, like, so for example, Lashley versus Drew was a pretty good match, but that didn't really tell a story. Like, I don't care what happens next, But I care what happens next with the Nigerian drum circle. I care what happens next, probably nothing, with Bad Bunny and Damian Priest and John Morrison and The Miz. And of course, I now care what's going to happen with Roman Reigns. The question now becomes, who will beat Roman Reigns? If it's not Edge or Daniel Bryan, whoever does is going to get a huge rub. So if WWE is planning on pushing someone soon, that would be one surefire way to push someone correctly, motherfucks. And with that being said, I give this WrestleMania, the first night, I'm going to give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. And the second night gets a 6 out of 10 for a very, 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 what did I say, 7.5 out of 10? And 6 out of 10 for a very, motherfucks, what's it called? A respectable score of 6.75, which we're going to just round up to 7. Overall, this WrestleMania gets a 7 out of 10, which I think is a great score, considering the year WWE had. I might take a point off and make it 6 out of 10 for the delay, but we can't blame WWE for that. And for Peacock, by the way. Fuck that shit. But anyways, that's all I gotta say about that, motherfucks. Thank you to all of you that watch my videos. I know that there's a lot of you that do, and I know that the more videos I put out, the lower the view tally of each video will be, especially if I put one out every day. I've noticed this trend. So I still appreciate the fact that a lot of my videos are doing just fine. And thanks a lot, guys. This Hater Mania has been fantastic. I can't wait till next Hater Mania, and we're probably gonna have a Hater Mania in between somewhere, because we don't go by the rules of WWE up in this bitch. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe today. Do yourself a favor, cucks. You're not gonna find this kind of shit anywhere else, motherfuckers. All right, fuckers. See you later and have fun.